Right now, the U.S. Supreme Court is hearing oral arguments against a case that could have profound implications for voting rights in our country. The justices are looking at whether states like Alabama, which has a large minority population, must take race into account when it comes to drawing congressional district boundaries. NBC News Washington correspondent Yamiche Alcindor joins us now from the U.S. Supreme Court. Yamiche, good morning. Just what's at stake here?
Well, good morning. It's a big day here at the Supreme Court. There are going to be oral arguments which are underway right now for a landmark case dealing with voting rights, race, and gerrymandering. Now, I talked to the plaintiffs, the defendant, as well as others on this case, Merrill v. Milligan. Take a listen. For generations, Alabama has been home to seminal civil rights battles. Now, activists say there's a new front line for equality. Redistricting.
We would ask that federal courts would intervene and require them to look at the population, to look at the voting history of our state, and to produce maps that actually give Black Alabamians a chance to elect candidates of their choice in a way that actually represents their population in the state.
Evan Milligan is talking about the marquee U.S. Supreme Court case bearing his name, Milligan v. Merrill. The case centers on voting rights and gerrymandering. Currently, only one of the state's 7 congressional districts is majority Black. That's 14%. Alabama's population is 27% Black. Milligan and other plaintiffs say the newly drawn congressional map dilutes the voting power of Black residents. They are demanding the state create a second majority Black district by breaking it up.
We had to fight for freedom. We had to fight for the right to vote. And now we're fighting for redistricting.
Democracy is under attack. And the country as we know it, if we continue on the road that we're on right now, we will not be able to recognize or even spell democracy in this country.
Defendant, Alabama Secretary of State John Merrill, didn't draw the new congressional maps, but he says he is confident the state will be able to successfully defend them.
So what's your response to civil rights activists and voters who say that the current congressional lines are diluting African-American voting power in this state?
If they're not pleased with that, then they need to change the constituency of the Alabama legislature or the congressional delegation, and people in our state have the opportunity to choose where they live. They can locate or relocate wherever they want to.
That's absurd. That's offensive. And that tells you how big the problem is.
Former Attorney General Eric Holder has focused much of his attention on fighting gerrymandering. Through a new group, the National Democratic Redistricting Committee, he's helped file lawsuits throughout the country over the past few years, including this case in Alabama.
It's a microcosm of a larger problem. Gerrymandering negatively impacts the nation as a whole, but disproportionately negatively impacts people of color. This is fundamentally a question of fairness.
Now both sides will make their oral arguments before the Supreme Court. Well, oral arguments, as I said, are underway. Evan Milligan, whose ancestors were enslaved just 6 generations ago, he comes from a family of civil rights activists. He says losing this case would be devastating for generations. But Alabama officials are confident they can win this case as they go before a conservative majority Supreme Court. Jose?